You're watching Tag TV. You're watching Tag TV.
Hello and welcome to Newsweek South Asia, a program that exposes Pakistan's role and nexus in promoting global terrorism and its funding. Here are the headlines. Security forces intensify anti-terror operation in Kashmir Valley. Imran Khan wins election dominated by violence and rigging. Imran Khan, a Taliban sympathizer, likely to become Prime Minister of Pakistan. And Afghanistan continues to bleed as election dates approaches. Pakistan-backed militant groups continue to target security forces, police and civilians to spread terror in the Indian state of Jammu and Kashmir. In the past 1 week alone, the Indian security forces managed to carry out string of encounters to make sure that the violence in the valley is contained. Newsweek South Asia has a report.
Pakistan continues to create instability in the state of Jammu and Kashmir by using its militants. These militants carried out attack on police patrol party in Sapor district, and this came after another group opened fire at a residence of a local politician last week. Following the attack, Indian security forces carried out a string of cordon and search operations throughout the valley. This led to 3 militants being gunned down in Kulgam district of the state. The Jammu and Kashmir police have confirmed that the militants killed in the encounter were responsible for the death of police constable Mohammad Salim.
इसमें स्पेसिफिक इंफॉर्मेशन डेवलप करके रेड बनी गांव में जब अर्ली आवर्स ऑफ द मॉर्निंग में हमने आर्मी और सीआरपी के साथ वहाँ गार्डन लगाया तो एक्सचेंज ऑफ फायर में ये 3 टेररिस्ट मारे गए. इन तीनों की बॉडीज रिकवर हुई, इनसे हथियार मिले हैं.
In Anantnag district, 2 militants belonging to the Lashkar-e-Toiba were gunned down in an encounter. The joint operation was led by the Indian Army Special Operations Group SOG of the state's police and Central Reserve Police Force CRPF that laid a siege at the Lal Chowk area of the district after a tip-off of their presence was received. The encounter came days after an Indian soldier was killed and 2 others sustained bullet injuries after militants attacked a CRPF party in Batmalu area.
एक स्पेसिफिक इंफॉर्मेशन पे ये ऑपरेशन लॉन्च किया गया था जिसमें लश्कर तोयबा के 2 जो दहशतगर्द हैं वो मारे गए हैं और इनका एक का शनाख्त हुआ है, आइडेंटिटी आया है. बिलाल करके वो खडूनी का था, 2017 से एक्टिव था. काफ़ी सिक्योरिटी फोर्स अटैक और सिविलियन अटैक एट्रोसिटीज़ में इन्वॉल्व था. दूसरे की अभी शनाख्त हुई नहीं है, उसकी शनाख्त की जो प्रोसेस है वो चल रहा है.
Over the years, Pakistan has been sending in armed militants to create instability in the state and create some kind of proxy war. It is also instigating the Kashmiri youth to take up arms, pelt stones, and one way or another make India suffer. Defense experts have hailed the aggressive steps of the Indian Army and the Indian government to contain the spread of terrorism in the valley.
Now there is this new aggressive tactics that we're using in the valley, and that is cordon and search, and then we kill the terrorist. In the last three operations, we've seen that we've been very, very successful in this kind of tactic. Well, you see, this kind of tactics is very useful because in the valley we've seen that there are Kashmiris who are supporters of the terrorists, and they let the terrorists hide in their houses, and that is why this cordon and search operation is a very, very good tactics. The moment we get some intelligence information that a terrorist is there in a particular locality, we carry out this cordon and search, we nab the terrorist, and then we kill him. So you see, this is a very good strategy. This is a very good tactic due to which maximum terrorists are killed. We should continue the strategy for say along 1 or 2 months, and then we should, along with the strategy, we should also adopt to dominating the LOC so that there's no more infiltration from the cross borders.
Aggression of cordon, cover and search. Even Dawood Sofi was killed, you know. So therefore in Anantnag, very successful. I think the armed forces know that the government is going to support them and not have any discretion APSA. They will not get a FIR and be put, and therefore they are taking more courage, and I think the intelligence agencies are also helping them much more.
Be the Taliban, Haqqani Network, Lashkar-e-Toiba or the Jaish-e-Mohammed, Pakistan remains a safe haven for these dreaded terror organizations. Working on the behest of Pakistan's army and intelligence agencies, these outfits are creating mayhem in the state of Jammu and Kashmir since 1989.
Moving on, the deep state of the army in Pakistan has once again emerged triumphant as the candidate it desperately wanted to win is poised to hold reins of the country. Although the elections are over and a new dispensation is set to walk down the power corridors of Islamabad, little change can be expected from its leader vis-a-vis the nurturing of terrorists inside its territory and unabated terror funding, which has costed it dearly in the recent past. A report.
A blast on the election date in the heart of a provincial capital ripped apart the flimsy claims of the Pakistan government and the army establishment, who have been aggressively stating that their country had got rid of terrorists owing to their extensive operations. This was not an isolated incident of violence that assaulted an already weak democratic structure of Pakistan, but an engineered spate of violence was unleashed during the run-up to the elections, which has further damaged the country's global reputation. As per the various media reports, as many as 250 people were killed by the blast during the campaigns, which included some prominent political figures too. Political and defense commentators across the forum believe that it was the army and no one else concocting and executing the devious plots to invoke instability before the polling.
The Pakistani army, the Pakistani ISI and the terrorists, particularly the terrorists led by Hafiz Saeed, Lakhvi and others. Their agenda was to make sure that Nawaz Sharif's party, which was the main party in Punjab, does not come to power under any circumstances, or for that matter, any civil dispensation led by Nawaz Sharif's party in coalition with others comes to power.
Unfazed by the global criticism, Pakistan was hell-bent on mainstreaming fundamentalists, radicals and even the UN-designated terrorists such as Hafiz Saeed. They were openly campaigning across the country. More than 1,500 such candidates with a direct patronage from the army were in the fray to polarize the elections with a religious and anti-India agenda. In a brazen and an unprecedented act of impropriety, the caretaker government of Pakistan, citing court orders, took off many extremist names from the terrorism watch list before the elections.
Coming into being through a process of selection rather than election. The entire election has been masterminded, rigged and managed by the Pakistani army and the ISI and the terrorists. Under these circumstances, the so-called captain Imran Khan, who is going to be the Prime Minister of Pakistan, would play in the hands of the Pakistani army and the Pakistani ISI. He will do only what they want him to do, and under no circumstances are they going to change their stance or stand as far as Hafiz Saeed is concerned, or Masood Azhar is concerned, or Lakhvi is concerned, or Salahuddin is concerned.
The rights activists who dared to raise the voice of resistance against the satanic agenda of the army to put its stooge in Islamabad were pushed aside through one or the other violent means. The reason Pakistan finds itself on the verge of being isolated globally is essentially because none of the democratically established institutions can take a high moral ground. The judiciary, which is independent and is considered sacrosanct across the globe, has a different reputation in Pakistan. It was accused of being hand in glove with the Pakistan Army in carrying out systematic stonewalling of candidates, expediting trivial cases against the opponents.
This is the first time in any nation that more than 55 to 60% of the total army of Pakistan was deployed on election duties. In each booth, there was an officer who masterminded as to what was happening. Media was never allowed inside. Observers of other parties were booted out. And magisterial powers were given to these officers. This makes a mockery of democracy rather than saying that it was a fair and a free election.
Owing to Pakistan's constant support for terrorism, Pakistan's foreign policy is in shambles. Afghanistan and United States have accused it of allowing Taliban militants to operate out of its region. India has been a victim of Pakistan's homegrown terror. Even the closest of its allies have started maintaining distance with Pakistan. So it is high time for the upcoming leadership in Pakistan that it works to redeem its global reputation and work for the welfare of the country instead of terror mongers such as Hafiz Saeed.
Pakistan's dual role in war against terror, at one hand collaborating with terror outfits and at other showcasing itself as a true partner, has proved to be counterproductive for both civilians and neighbouring countries like India and Afghanistan. With the new regime led by Imran Khan, who is also known as Taliban Khan, due to his sympathies with Taliban and other terrorist organizations, there is concern both in West and neighbouring countries whether Pakistan will overcome the tag of country as is seen as hotbed of terrorism. We have a report.
Over the last 5 years, Imran Khan cultivated an image, one which is not so flattering but suited the Mullah military alliance. He has been seen as Taliban Khan, an image that brought him closer to the Mullah military alliance that wanted someone at the helm who is in sync with their design. This is the reason Imran Khan was seen as a front runner to the post of Prime Minister. Imran Khan fueled controversy for describing top Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan commander Waliur-Rahman as pro-peace when he was killed by US forces in 2013. The drone attack that killed pro-peace Waliur-Rahman resulted in death of soldiers in revenge attacks. This is totally unacceptable, he tweeted. Later that year in September, Khan suggested that the Taliban should be allowed to open an office somewhere in Pakistan. He argued that if the US could open offices for the Afghan Taliban in Qatar, why couldn't the Pakistan Taliban do the same?
मैं अगर आप हमें हमारे से बड़ी-बड़ी स्टेटमेंट्स तो हम दिलवा दें तालिबान के खिलाफ तो उनको कौन बचाएगा वहां कोई पुलिस बचाएगी उनको मैं आपको कुछ और चीज समझा रहा हूं देखें आखिर में होनी है पॉलिटिकल सेटलमेंट कोई पार्टी ऐसी हो जो ब्रोकर कर सके आज मैं यहां नारे मार दूं तालिबान उन लोगों को कौन बचाएगा
In March 2014, a senior Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf leader and health minister in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, Shaukat Yousafzai, said PTI had always supported the opening of a Taliban office in Peshawar. Later, another minister from the PTI-ruled KPK province said Taliban should be allowed to open an office anywhere in Pakistan. In November 2013, after the US killed Taliban leader Hakimullah Mahsood in a drone strike, Khan said it was absolutely deliberate. This was a deliberate targeting of the peace process. Imran's love for the Taliban is not one-sided. In February 2014, the terror outfit nominated him to represent them in mediation talks. While Khan eventually refused, the incident showed the faith the Taliban has in him.
इमरान खान का ताल्लुक है पाकिस्तान की फ़ौज इसके साथ है और अगर पाकिस्तान की फ़ौज इसके साथ है तो इन्हें जो बयान दिया है इसमें लगता है कि फ़ौजी लोग भी चाहते हैं कि हिंदुस्तान के साथ कोई रास्ता निकाला जाए बहुत अच्छी बात है बाकी कल क्या होगा ये तो वक्त ही बताएगा
Khan's support of the Taliban continued well into 2018 as he defended the group system of Justice Sharia. In January this year, the PTI gave a grant worth PKR 550 million to Haqqani Madrasas of Samihul Haq, who is also known as the father of Taliban. Ahead of the polls, PTI joined hands with Maulana Fazlur Rahman Khalil, who is on the US terror watch list. While Imran Khan has been claiming repeatedly that his criticism was fueled by Indian and American propaganda, he will have to answer some tough questions in front of the world.
The incidents of violence continued unabated in Afghanistan. Recently, a suicide bomber blew himself up outside the airport, resulting in the deaths of dozens of people and injuring multiple others. Newsweek South Asia has a report.
The Afghan Vice President Abdul Rashid Dostum, who returned from exile, narrowly escaped death outside the Hamid Karzai International Airport in Kabul when a suicide bomber detonated a bomb. The Islamic State claimed responsibility for the attack. Senior government officials have confirmed the deaths of 15 people while 16 others were injured. Dostum, who left Afghanistan last year after heavy pressure from the Western donors including the United States, drove away from the airport in a motorcade only minutes before the explosion. The NATO forces on the ground have managed to contain the damage as nearly 65% of the country is still under government rule.
It can be fairly assessed that Pakistan and Afghanistan have been engaging each other on the security of, you can say, along the Durand line, and the cross-border movement of the forces which have been inimical both to Afghanistan and Pakistan. The only disappointing factor is that despite many agreements, despite many assurances from both the sides, despite many visits of the high-level delegation on both the sides, they haven't really come up to some kind of a situation where they can see a forward movement in whatever they promise to each other. So if that is the case, then what we can see is that the forces in Pakistan, they have actually able to survive the international pressure which was put on Pakistan to remove these forces from the ground, especially the Haqqani network or Taliban, the way and after the death of Mullah Omar. So these forces have been still entrenched in Pakistan, and there's been no change in situation as of now.
The elections in Afghanistan are months away, but with repeated bomb blasts happening all over the country, the government of Afghanistan, headed by Ashraf Ghani, is keen to keep the democratic process going despite huge security challenges presented by the latest string of attacks which have been carried out by the terrorist organizations on the behest of Pakistan's ISI.
This is not solely the case where the Ghani government would be seen as lacking in its credibility or effort. But there are also the external factors. You know, Daesh has increased its presence in Afghanistan, and how to deal with Daesh, the government is yet to come up with some kind of policy initiative. At the same time, they are also looking towards some kind of rapprochement with Taliban. They had their ceasefire during the Ramzan, and there was also some kind of a, you can say, bonhomie at some grassroots level. You can find these.
With just 3 months remaining until the elections, the Afghan government needs to convince its citizens that it is capable of holding free and fair elections and safeguarding them while doing so.
The point there where the Ghani government needed more support was from the neighborhood. I think Pakistan and maybe you can say larger South Asian effort to reconciliation is still missing. So blaming Ghani won't be justified, but yes, the government, Afghan government, needs to be supported in its effort, and I think the chances are brighter than in the past to come up with some kind of a solution towards the situation where Taliban and Daesh and government are actually in the trilateral conflict in Afghanistan.
In these circumstances, the Afghan government and its West allies needs to convince the citizens, especially the voters, and successfully carry out elections. Otherwise, the legitimacy of the government and its democratic institutions will suffer. The objective set by Pakistan in the region.
And with that, we come to the end of this edition of Newsweek South Asia. We will be back next week with more news, views and analysis from the subcontinent. Meanwhile, do keep writing to us at nwsa@anin.com. This is Surbhi Sharma signing off on the behalf of entire production team of Newsweek South Asia. Goodbye and take care.